Hey, welcome to the People's Weekly on People's Radio United. We're starting fashionably on time. I'm here with Nolan and Glenn. What's up?
What's going on?
I'm tired. I feel like a zombie right now.
Seems to be a lot of that going around lately.
Yeah, I got some blueberry kush, so hopefully it'll wake me up a little bit enough to do this.
There you go.
Yep. It's wax though, so hopefully. Oh man. View up here, Glenn. Tell the people what they're missing out on if they don't listen on Wednesday.
Well, the last couple of weeks it's been provincial elections, but it's kind of par for the course. What's next week? I have no idea.
Okay, so view up here. No idea what's going to be talked about next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right?
Correct, sir.
Yeah, my math is bad. I'm so tired. I can't comprehend time anymore. Oh, someone's in the chat.
Me.
It's Glenn. Oh. So yeah.
See, I'm listening to the show.
I would hope that'd be step one of doing good radio is having one of the hosts listen to the show.
Well, not everybody does. But,
It's true.
We don't want to like double our ratings if we all listen. Double our listeners.
Oh.
That would just be crazy.
Hello, Pope.
Oh my.
Yeah, the Pope is our number one listener. Now we're on a tangent. So anyway, yeah, I think I'm gonna do a show soon, either later today if I can stay awake, or maybe this weekend. Where I don't know if anyone's seen my live stream. We're gonna talk about this in a minute, but anyway, I'm gonna do a show with the people we're gonna talk about that live under the bridge around here that have been getting harassed by the police. So, hang on, I'm retweeting the show. That's why I'm all silent. So yeah, I'm gonna do a live show with them sometime this weekend. And certain people want their identities hidden, so we're gonna do it on radio instead of video. That took a long time to get out. That's how tired I am. Let's just kick this off today and get going. Oh wait, Nolan, did you have any announcements? Anything new going on?
Well, I'll just say one of my usual announcements. Look up who Kevin Cooper is. He is an innocent black man on death row. Has been there for over 30 years. He is 60, and he's running out of time with the death penalty being strengthened in the 2016 election, and the Jerry Brown going out of office, having a new governor soon. Anyways, please write to him because he's said many times the support he gets from the outside keeps him going. He's one of the smartest people I've ever come across. He just happens to be in prison. Please write Mr. Kevin Cooper. Next line, hashtag C-65304 space 4-EB-82. Next line, San Quentin State Prison. Next line, San Quentin, California, 94974. It's 94974.
And you're gonna post that as well again?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, we've been posting it every week. If you follow the hashtag Kevin Cooper or Save Kevin Cooper, you'll find it probably along with a bunch of other information about him. Are those the right hashtags?
Yeah. Save Kevin Cooper being, I guess, the main one.
And SaveKevinCooper.com is the website?
Save Kevin Cooper
or .org.
.org would be the website.
Yeah, SaveKevinCooper.org.
And you can, and I implore anybody listening to read the essays on SaveKevinCooper.org, and they're from Kevin. They're just intelligent as hell.
Yeah, I've read a lot of them. We even had a show where he played some of his poetry and some of the writings that he was reading. So yeah, let's get started. We're gonna leave the United States for once, and we're not going to Canada either, Glenn. No one seems to be talking about the fact that there is a thriving slave trade currently going on in Libya. The reports of people being sold, tortured, and killed. With reports of people being sold, tortured, and killed. What can we do from outside of Libya to help end this atrocity immediately? I mean, this is full-fledged slavery. They're taking immigrants and they're threatening their lives and taking them hostage, basically, and selling them. So these people are forced into the slave trade or killed or tortured. And this is happening right now as we speak.
Well, I mean, there are some things that should be done, but how they get accomplished, I have no idea. Because, I mean, first of all, the people that are streaming to Libya are coming from sub-Saharan Africa. They're basically, a lot of them are economic migrants, but there's also a lot of tribal stuff involved. You know, there's a lot of people that are just no longer welcome where they've lived for centuries. You know, you want to talk about Sudan, South Sudan, Rwanda. There's even a bit of garbage going on in Uganda, Central African Republic. Everybody's trying to get to the Mediterranean. But since the last 2 years, we've seen the boats sinking 100 yards off an Italian island and nobody does anything. We've seen the Italian Navy turning boats back, Malta booting people out of their water. So, not a surprise, I guess. There's a captive market in Libya for these people to be bought and sold like chattel. And considering that NATO and Hillary Clinton and the United States completely fucked Libya up to get it to this point, yeah, I don't expect to hear much about it over here.
Not at all. Everyone's just looking. No.
Well,
That's how this works with the white society.
I was muted that whole time.
no, you weren't.
Yeah, I was. What I said, though, for the people listening was, you guys can hear me when I'm muted.
Oh, okay.
No, what I said was that I heard about it like a year or two ago on the media as a quick blurb, and then nothing else about it. And I kind of thought that it was ended somehow, or something happened and people intervened and stopped it, but it just, people stopped caring about it or caring to even bring it up anymore is what happened.
Well, that being said, there are some organizations that were on it then, and they still are. Places like Freedom United, Unseen.org, the UNHCR. I mean, it's not happening in a vacuum. It's just that nobody's being told.
Yeah, and that's how these things work in white society. The things that they do to us will happen in real time, obviously, but most of the time they'll get hidden. And even if they're talked about, like the slave trade, it'll be a blur. So like Standing Rock,
Yep.
You have Yemen right now. Millions of children on the brink of death because there's just no food because of all the bombs and all the bloodshed that Saudi Arabia and its Western allies are inflicting upon the Yemeni people. The floods in Nigeria killed over 100 people. That was last week. A ferry tipped over. A couple hundred people died in Tanzania. Philippines and China with a typhoon. About 100 people died there. If the victims are people of color, the news won't really report it too much. The cops kill us every day, as we've said on the show 100 times, and the majority of our deaths and murders are not talked about. Our lives do not matter here. And you're talking about a billion-dollar network here over there in Libya. And Glenn, you talked about the people fleeing to Europe because Libya is so messed up, and obviously Africa is still colonized, so it's hard to live in our own space because it's just being squeezed for all it's worth, so we don't have any resources. And
but yet I've been hearing nonstop about this white genocide going on in Africa, quote unquote, where a few white farmers were killed. You know what I mean? And that's nonstop, and that's not even real.
No, it's not.
So
no.
But I'm just saying, you see what I'm saying? I've been hearing about that for quite some time now, and I haven't heard anything about this in a long, long, long time.
Yep.
Well, that's how this works. That's how they keep this oppression going. We're going to talk about Kavanaugh and Cosby later. The reason why Kavanaugh and Cosby were able to do what they did, these horrible things to women, is because we don't listen to women when they're victimized. We perpetuate basically standing over them in society, us being on the top, them being on the bottom, and they just have to deal with it, and it's all their fault. And it's a cycle. White supremacy is a cycle, and it encompasses so many things, including sexism. And the thing and South Africa is it's absolutely ridiculous. It's black land. South Africa is blacker than the day is long. White people today own 70% of the farmland in South Africa. But South Africa is 70% black.
And that's exactly how they got those statistics to look the way they look for their quote-unquote white genocide. They didn't tell people that the white people own 70% of the farmers are white. You know what I mean? So the stats look higher. Oh, there's a lot of farmers dying.
Yeah, but where did this fallacy about the white genocide even start? That should be enough right there. This started to turn up on Breitbart, InfoWars,
4chan,
Daily Stormer. So
Tucker Carlson's talked about it.
Well, there you go.
There's always those types of networks, either media or government propaganda. Even today in 2018, 40% of white South Africans don't believe the apartheid wrongly oppressed black people. It's 40% of them basically saying, yeah, you were treated very fairly. Why are you complaining?
Ask Israelis if apartheid affects Palestinians negatively. I bet you get the same kind of outcome.
There you go.
Absolutely, but the thing about the actual still empower exclusively Afrikaners, the Declares, the Botas, any of them with money got the fuck out of Dodge. The white people that are left now that are insisting it wasn't an inconvenience weren't even alive when it was going on. So this is just indoctrination, plain and simple. And
it's all over the world.
Yep, so much.
That's just We're talking about Libya. I mean, we're being sold for as low as $400. We're being referred to as merchandise. One enslaver said to the crowd, and during an auction, this is present day for people listening. This is not 1824. This is present day. The slave owners said, "Does anyone need a digger? This is a digger. This is a digger. A strong man. He'll dig." I mean, that sounds like 1842 or 1796. But that's the thing. Whether it's chattel slavery of the past, or you have the Libyan slave trade of the present, or the prison industrial complex of the present, this never stops. It just evolves. The genocide against black people all over the world is just evolved. I mean, Italy is bringing in migrants and having them work in slave-like conditions. So it's a little better, but still being paid next to nothing and living in horrible conditions. And talking about present day, around 400 people are locked in a detention center where they keep black folks and other dark-skinned people, so they can sell them off. And because of the I guess you could call it an ongoing war in Libya, and things have spiked in the last couple weeks, gunfire everywhere, you have people trapped in these detention centers, and one in particular is 200 men, 200 women, 20 children, and 20 children under the age of 5 years old, and they don't have any food or water. And then you have a couple other camps. You have 1,500 people trapped there, and some have gotten out or were transferred to other facilities. So this is about as serious as you can get. And Glenn, you mentioned the traveling to Europe, to attempt to get a better life. The problem is the way they get there is so dangerous. And just take the last 5 years. In 2014, you had over 3,200 people die. 2015, you had over 3,700 people die. 2016, you had 5,000 people die. 2017, over 3,000. And this year, and all these numbers haven't even been counted yet because we're still in September, over 1,700. So just like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, we're either being enslaved or we're being killed, or we're dying in the process of trying to escape this colonial hell that is all over the place. People think of black racism and they immediately think of America, as they should, but they forget about Africa, they forget about Brazil, they forget about Europe itself. White supremacy started in Europe. It didn't magically just start in America. It started in Europe.
Well, I think the only real change that's happened from the 15th century to now is back then you had to actually go there to subjugate the entire population. Now it seems the power doesn't even have to really go there. Like India was the last time that was done, and South Africa. Now it's all by proxy, and it's done with long distance force.
Yeah. And I've seen a couple black folks, very intelligent folks. I won't mention their names. They're both both on Twitter, and they both are somewhat prominent in their fields.
Kanye West?
Yeah, mine as well. And they were saying, one was talking about how Hillary was guest starring on the new Murphy Brown, which is nothing but white people on that show, for one. And I was saying, I mean, why in the world is this okay? And he goes, well, you should be focused about the idiot in the White House. I'm like, yeah, I am, but I'm also focused on all the shit that she's done to us, and she hasn't even been president. She's never been president. And then another continued the narrative and said it outright. To the people who thought that Hillary or Trump was the same, you're being ridiculous, and it's that in itself is saying that is ridiculous. She turned us into slaves. She used slave labor when she was in Arkansas, and Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas. I could go on for 55 years just listing all the shit she's done, just like with Trump. But because people have their party lines, because people of color are colonized and believe this, all these white lies, as we've been saying on the show today, just indoctrination. You used the word, Glenn.
Yep.
And I'll say this again, and I say this because, like Trump, I hate her because of what she's done to my people and so many others. Hillary has done more damage to black people than Donald Trump. And it's not even close. Now, Trump can catch up. For sure, especially because he's president of the United States. He has more power than she ever did. But she turned us into slaves. She pushed the crime bill. Again, I can go on and on, but so we need to realize what is reality. We've said, and I mean, I'm repeating ourselves. We've said this before. We need to understand that. Oh yeah, black people are being thrown into prisons like it's going out of style. People of color as well. Native people at even higher rate. The cops are former slave patrols. They're killing us every 5 seconds. We're still slaves in our own continent, black folks. Australia and New Zealand are racist as hell. They've never had an indigenous prime minister, either of them. America's never even had a woman president. Hillary's the worst, but
we never had a native president.
Yeah,
so we can say the same thing. We've never had an indigenous president either.
And it's their land, and we have had a native vice president. Actually, most people don't know this. Charles Curtis. He was under Herbert Hoover, and he was very bigoted, and I guess you could say self-hating. He wasn't too kind to his own people or people of color. No.
Ben Carson-ish.
Ben Carson-ish. Barack Obama-ish.
Barack Obama-ish. There you go. So yeah, we're gonna have to wrap this up. But like, what can the people listening do? Just keep spreading this out and trying to amplify that it's still happening and letting people know about it, or is there something else we could do? I don't know.
Well, that's key. I think forcing, and I say this in general, to actually get closer to liberation, force our way into the media. Native people have done an amazing job just off of Twitter, making their issues heard, by themselves, and the numbers with this.
Yeah, there's only like 5 million Native people in the United States, right?
Self-identifying, yeah. There's only 5 million Native people in the United States,
and that's huge. If they, if a small group can do that on social media, I mean, that's
The
huge.
majority of their nations were in support of Standing Rock, and some went to the Sioux Reservation to help them. I mean, can you imagine if the majority of black folks, went to Ferguson when it was popping off, went to Libya or in Libya, helped people in Tanzania, people in Ghana, etc., went over to Libya to help liberate us. But then numbers are key. Banding together is key. But you've got, for goodness sake, 20,000 people are kept in overcrowded, unsanitary detention centers. There's torture everywhere, sexual assault. The people need psychological help who actually are able to escape this, and they don't get it. Like Glenn said, after they escape slavery, they are outcasts, in their own country. And you look at there's one thing of many, but there's one thing in particular is just absolutely disturbing. When we're crossing the waters to try to get over to Europe, women and children have to face rampant sexual assault and sexual violence. And according to UNICEF, nearly half the women and children that they interviewed had experienced sexual abuse during those travels, and often multiple times. So, this is like Yemen and so many other places. This is as serious as it gets, but the word needs to get out there. And to my folks in Africa, we need to understand this stuff is foreign. This barbaric slavery and dehumanization, and there's some black folk just back in the day making money off of enslaving our own people, or even Barack Obama halfway across the world. But we need to understand this isn't us. These aren't our values. We need to get back to our values. If we can look at what we used to do and how we supported each other, whether it was in government, whether it was socially, we can stop these things. We can stop floods in Nigeria because we'll have better resources. We can stop ferries from being capsized because we have better resources, and we can stop being enslaved in Libya. And I'll just finish by saying it's another sad truth we repeat all the time. White folks in general are not going to help us. And the EU, they're complicit in this. They're making money off of this. The UK and France and the US and NATO, they helped overthrow Gaddafi and turned Libya into a slave state and turned us into slaves. So we got to make the noise, and we got to make the change.
I agree. So everyone get on social media and spread this story. I'm still trying to slap myself into consciousness. So yeah, let's move on to number 2. There are a lot of people, many even going under the anonymous banner, claiming to be free speech absolutionists. These people are arguing in defense of letting Nazis spread their hate speech without consequence. These people seem to be ignorant as to the intention of freedom of speech granted by the Constitution. Also, fuck those Nazi sympathizers. But we've talked about this before, so we really don't need to go into this big, giant, long thing. But let me just say real quick, the freedom of speech, as far as the Constitution is concerned, is for dissent against your government. It's like when I talk crap to the police that everybody seems to hate. Or it's like when people corner their elected officials and demand answers. and in restaurants and elevators and such. And it's being able to be displeased and vocal about your grievances with your government not giving a rat's ass about us or doing anything to benefit us in any way, shape, or form. It's not about being able to go to an NSM rally and scream all kinds of hateful stuff without getting punched in the chin or challenged. It has nothing to do with it. And a lot of these jackasses are from other countries saying this. Free speech, free speech, free speech. You know, fuck you. You don't even know what the hell you're talking about. You look so fucking stupid on Twitter. But that's on you. If you want to support Nazis, then if I ever see you in real life, I got something for you.
But that's just it. Again, it comes back to the core ignorance of the public. There's very few American citizens that actually understand what the Bill of Rights protects the individual from. It's not other individuals. It's not independent campaigns. It's not social movements. It's your own fucking government, nothing else.
Exactly. But yeah, they you know, and they come with these little slick, I'm not left, I'm not right, I'm for whatever is the righteous thing to do or something, or whatever I believe in. But that says I believe everyone should be able. You know, they say it all like that, but it comes down to we want Nazis to be able to say shit without you all going off on them all the time. Quit calling racist racist. Why do you call racist racist? That's bad. Racists should have free speech. That's what they're saying. Like, without saying it. Read into the kind of the little crap they're trying to play games. Don't fall for the BS. They're not on both sides. No one can be on both sides.
Well, there's fine people on both sides.
We have to believe everything the president says.
When you see people, when you see people saying I know people on both sides, no, there's no good Nazis. No, that's already a red flag there. Yeah,
no good Congress people in the U.S. Congress. No good presidents, etc. This free speech thing is just, my gosh, Glenn, you said it very eloquently. They don't understand what that amendment is. They don't understand what the Constitution is. Same thing with the Second Amendment. I mean, the Second Amendment was put in to keep slaves on the plantation and make sure Native people were kept at bay, and their land, so their land can keep being stolen, and their people and population can keep dwindling by the murders of white folks. And it was. Oh, go ahead.
It was a federal rural crime law. That's what the Second Amendment was when it was made.
Yep.
That's it.
And to the point, the core of this topic, if there's been research done on this, why free speech does not give you the right to start yelling, the N-word or hurl slurs at gay people, etc., etc., and the people who cry for free speech are those same people hurling those slurs. Yeah. And you have a current member of the United States Supreme Court, Sonia Sotomayor, and she actually cited free speech. She, in her opinion on voting on a case, she looked at the actions of a former New York Police Department employee, and they amazingly fired him. And what he did was some folks at a charity had sent him some mail or contacted him and said, "Hey, would you like to donate to our organization?" It's a normal thing, people get hit up all the time for stuff like that. And he responded by mailing a bunch of racist materials. And she goes, It's free speech. Leave him alone. If you disagree, you disagree. But it's free speech. Leave him alone. She's a fucking Democrat.
Well, here's the
She
thing,
was
though.
appointed by Obama.
I mean, I agree that everyone should say whatever they want to say. But like I said,
There's consequences.
there's consequences. If you want to talk that stuff, then you shouldn't have full police protection and taxpayer dollars protecting you doing it.
Right.
You should do it at your own risk.
It's like anything. I mean, for goodness sake, you could theoretically do anything. You can kill somebody. You can vandalize a department store. That doesn't mean it's okay.
And there's consequences.
And there's consequences.
But a free speech abolitionist says you're supposed to just let him say that. Just ignore him and walk the other way. And I hear that even when they're in the street screaming all that. Just ignore the Nazis. Go the other way. You're giving them power. No, how about all the media over there in front of them, asking them how they feel about this and that is giving them power. I'm trying to knock them the hell out. I'm trying to turn their power off.
Yes.
Well, yeah. There's a side to this nobody looks at, and it's important. And I'll just say that this one thing before I say that. To your point of Tim of just defending or at least giving them license to say these things. Van Jones worked for Obama. He's on CNN. He called Trump presidential after his speech, giving him a little license, giving him a little dap. But
that wasn't him. That was some white dude.
No, that was Van Jones. Van Jones said Trump was presidential tonight.
Oh, was that him? Oh, there was another one that said the same thing, basically.
I'm not surprised.
Like he's never looked more presidential than he does tonight. That was a white dude. Oh, that's trippy. Wow.
But
the reality is, we went from what, 0 to 0.5.
Well, yeah, but he didn't say that.
Maybe.
He's giving him license to be Trump and be a bigot and a racist and a sexist, etc. But when these things are said, especially if you're talking about black and indigenous folks, and our two people, the minute we are born, we have a thing called intergenerational trauma. All the shit that we've had to deal with as a people for 500 years, and that trauma is passed down generation to generation to generation, and then as we live our own lives, we experience racism, and that trauma gets exacerbated. So if someone on the street or on the internet or wherever calls me the N-word, yeah, I mean I could get through it and like whatever, you're an idiot, but that still pokes a hole in that trauma, and this is just more of belittling and erasing the pain of oppressed people. I mean, if you're transgender, the last thing you should hear is you're a freak, you weren't born correctly, you were God's mistake. That, for gosh sake, that hurts.
But see, that's what I'm saying.
Poke the hole in the things they've had to deal with their whole life. And people just push that. They don't even address it. They don't even address that part of it.
But no,
because it's not them.
Yeah, well, of course. Why only white lives matter? Everybody else's lives are inconsequential.
I mean, I've tested this in the real world in rural Canada, and when you call rednecks, when you call crackers, they get pissed off real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, well, dude, free speech, go fuck yourself.
But no, that's what I'm saying. They have the right to say all that stuff. They can trash any group of people any way they want. But what needs to happen is they need to get bashed and they need to get shut down and they need to get attacked for it every time until they're just too scared to say it publicly. And then society says that's not something we're going to do because it's dangerous to do that. And then it weeds itself out, at least in the public, They're still going to do it at their clan meetings or whatever, but they got to, at least, they already have to be protected by police. There's only ever very few of them out there. They're always surrounded by multitudes of people. So you need to take away that those tax dollars to protect them.
Well, this is the problem.
It
This has
doesn't say
always been.
you're protected to scream racist stuff. It says you're protected against speaking against your government, and that's as far as it goes.
But again, you have to remember that the American Bill of Rights is dependent on the American federal government to discharge those duties fairly.
Good luck
And
with that.
right in 2018, this is about as far away from fairly that I've seen since before when I was preschool in the 60s. You know, it's just like in Canada. We have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms. But when the federal government decides that they don't really care about it, guess what? It has less relevance, less impact. It just doesn't matter as much.
But charters of rights and freedom sounds way more awesome than the Constitution. Just looking at the name.
Well, you guys have got Bill of Rights. That's not bad.
Yeah, that's not. You're right.
But I mean, this is just it. You can have the most beautiful shit in the world written on a piece of paper that you say is the basis of your whatever it is you're in, republic, dominion, whatever. But if the people in charge don't pay attention to it, it don't matter. It's just like going to fast food or calling Domino's and they say 30 minutes are free. Well, if it's 33 minutes, you think it's free? Good fucking luck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, same thing.
Well, and it comes from the top.
Yep.
You have a racist Twitter troll as president of the United States. You have the person he ran against was good friends with Robert Byrd, a former Grand Cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan. Trump reportedly had Mein Kampf next to his bed for years. You have Clay Higgins in Congress from Louisiana. Before he got in Congress, he was publicly calling for the murder of Muslims. You know, calling them like mongrels. This is very normal. I mean, Obama called his own people, his own black kids in this country, gun-toting criminals. He called his own people thugs. This is, if it comes from the top, and you're taught that you have to respect authority no matter what, well, then this is the stuff you're going to believe. I mean, I'm tired. I understand it, but I'm tired of running into other black folks who defend the hell that we're in. But that's what we're told. That's what we're taught. It's our fault. We sold slaves too. We're not that smart. Black on black crime. Fathers in prison, etc., etc. But these are the things that are said by our leaders, and then even our black leaders. Bill frickin' Cosby. Pull up your pants.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, especially with pundits and stuff, the politinerati, I don't even see color. I just listen for 10 seconds and I know where they stand. Because color doesn't matter in politics, because politics is money. Politics is power. People are people. There are assholes who want to run the world and can't count to 10 in every race.
True, but if you're looking at the politics of white folks, and I'll just take this country, it was designed to oppress people of color. At least since racism was invented by white folks, either their governments were created in part or in large, or at the base.
Yeah, but all those oppressions were for profit, I think, is what Glenn's saying. And
true, but you can't separate capitalism and the slave trade and the indigenous genocide of the Americas. They're all connected. They're married. They created, they kind of help create each other. But if it's something, a country like England or France, yeah, well then they added it in to their government, and they started profiting off of racism, and that's something that kind of needs to be put on the table, because there's not one person in high government in this country who isn't hurting people of color, and there's a reason for that, because this whole system in this country was designed that way. If you're going to get in high government, one of the rules is you have to fuck over people of color, along with women and transgender people, any marginalized people, really.
Well, there's no doubt that Whitey calls the shots. It's Whitey's game. However, Ben Carson, for one, Al Sharpton, I mean, you can go on and on. There have been Asians that have sold their people out in California and Washington State for, you can go back as far as you want. The thing is, power is always going to find tools. But as long as it's Whitey's game, well, of course, 4 out of 5 who carry any weight are going to be white. Because that's the other thing, too, People never really talk about it from my point of view, but considering the Caucasian race basically runs the show, why are they so fucking scared all the time?
Well,
that blows me away.
It's one of it is they're promoting fear, and so it's easier for them to do the things they do, whether it's Nixon's war on drugs or Clinton's crime bill or slavery in general. And I've asked this question to myself, and I've had other black folks talk about it with me. I've talked about it with them, asking the question. I think part of it is the fear of things you don't understand. They didn't, white folks, they didn't understand the politics, the values, and the way our day-to-day lives are run, and how we treated people in on Turtle Island, South America, and in Africa. You have someone like Ben Franklin calling native life a utopia. You have white explorers before colonization coming into Africa, looking at all our shit and going, "Oh my gosh, we live in a shithole compared to these people." I mean, the buildings are vast, the politics are so advanced. I mean, they have this amazing university here. They have this amazing doctrine, political doctrine in this country. The way they treat women in this nation, etc., etc. Now, both of our folks are believing in this white nonsense. Like you said, Carson, for one. And that's the thing. Like I was saying with Libya, we need to get back to what worked for us and what our actual values are and our beliefs, even religiously. If you're a person who believes that there is a higher power, I mean, we're speaking English all over the freaking continent. I mean, if you turn on the news and there's something about Africa, and you hear a brother or sister talk, they're speaking English. Why the hell are we speaking English? These are not our languages. Portuguese and French. We are so far away from who we are. It's ridiculous. And as far as how white folks act in general, and when they're in power, there's been studies on that. There's been a lot of head shaking, like Glenn, you said, with why are they so scared? But as far as we're concerned, we're believing the white hype, and it's killing us. I mean, we're using their ammunition to kill us. We're killing ourselves with their ammunition.
Well, that's the real world result of quote unquote globalization.
Oh yeah, and that's a key difference. And this is one I remember. I asked my father this like 400 times. Why have they done this? Why do they keep doing this to us? And then when you look at us, we didn't. This is not something we did, or Native people did. You know, obviously you're going to have wars between different countries, and no one's perfect. There's going to be effed up stuff everywhere. But we didn't go to Russia and just completely to subjugate them, steal all their land, put them in slavery, try to exterminate them, or let alone the entirety of Europe, like they've done in North and South America, or Australia and New Zealand. So, that's just one of those $64,000 questions. It just happens to be a very serious one because it's life and death. But back to the original topic. Free speech does not give you license to be a bigot.
It only gives you license to dissent.
Well, I mean, in principle, yeah, but I mean, if you want to get technical about it, especially related to the United States, go ahead, but be willing to accept what it brings you from other citizens exercising that exact same right.
Exactly.
That's fair.
Is that it on the
Because that's the thing that I don't get. I mean, for a country that's so predicated on being the home of freedom, but yet they don't have slander laws. They don't have hate laws.
Then, if they do, they're not enforced well. It's like the Civil Rights Act or the Voting Act.
Well, I mean, I look at something like anti-SLAPP legislation. It's absolutely required in this day and age, as far as I'm concerned. And there's like maybe 8 states that have anti-SLAPP legislation. There's 2 provinces in Canada. And it is a huge tool of digital control, flat out. Control of discourse in these countries of such great freedom. It's just hypocrisy.
Yeah, I think say what you want, suffer the consequences. Freedom of speech is for dissent against the government. We should move on. Hopefully. So yeah, number 3, if you've seen my recent live streams this week, you'll know that unfortunately we must once again discuss the homelessness situation and how the police treat homeless people as second-class citizens with close to no rights. It's this thing is going on. The police showed up 2 days in a row, harassing people, threatening people, taking their belongings. I have 2 streams up on Twitter if you scroll down a little ways. And they don't care. They're breaking the law. There's actually laws that they can't take people's stuff. They have to store it and give them a ticket. But they're storing it in a trash can because the loophole in that law is unless it's trash. So anything they say, your tent's trash, your clothes are trash, your blankets and pillows are trash, your animal cage is trash. Everything is trash to them. So whatever they deem trash is trash. And it's really sick and horrible. And I don't know what to do other than just stream it and talk crap.
Well, this is part of, how is this any different than the slave police? It's like, you people are not living in an acceptable manner that the people in charge say, therefore, we will put you in a worse position. We will not help you. we will make things worse. Why? Because we can.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And these people in the community, they don't care. Most of them are like, yeah, even if I don't like what's going on, I don't want them in my neighborhood. So
And that's Glenn just alluded to. It's like the slave patrols. You have, I think it's 3/4 of white folks don't want to live near black people. So yeah, the homeless people. Yeah, get away from me. Don't touch me. You're lesser than I am. You're not human. This is why I say white supremacy.
yeah, these are mixed people of all races. There's black people, white people, Latino. I mean, under the same bridge here.
Well, right. This is the class war finally being shown.
Yeah,
and the police come in of pretty much all races. But I haven't seen a black cop. But I'm not saying that one didn't show up. But it's usually a lot of Latino and white cops.
Of course. I mean, well, that's why white supremacy is all-encompassing, because it has so many victims, it has so many functions to keep it alive and empower it. And stealing money from the bottom and subjugating the 99%, that's a big tool for them that they love to use. And it's from the left, from the right, or the center. Even anti-big banks, Miss Anti-Big Banks, Elizabeth Warren, she says herself, she's a capitalist. She says she wants to make capitalism work for everybody. She believes in, quote, I believe in markets. And this is like one of the most alleged. Well, this is one of the most liberal people in the United States government. That liberal is not a good word. People think it is. That's another story. But poverty is something that these people continue to expand, and even local government. I mean, I've seen and heard. After it gets past a certain time at night, spikes get put on park benches, so the homeless people aren't allowed to, or makes it harder for them to find a bench to sleep on. But if your freaking housing rates are so high, and most people can't afford, a 2-bedroom place in California, especially LA or New York City, well, where the hell are you're supposed to live? Especially, what if you have children? What if you're married? What if you're disabled? But these politicians don't care. The people who have money, for the most part, again, in a general sense, they don't care. It doesn't affect them, and they're getting help by it. That's why these tax breaks, they're so in favor of. Because, hey, that helps me. I don't care about anybody else. It helps me. It improves my life. So I'm fine with it. I'm fine with this system. Let's keep going.
Most of the people getting the major tax breaks, they don't need them to improve their lives. Are already too improved.
They don't need them at all.
They're far too improved already.
Greed is something that is very connected to capitalism.
Well, here's how it went down. Though the cops come and they tell these people, they take their tent first off. He says, like, you can't take anything else, and they throw it in a trash truck. And the lady's crying. She has a cat, and she's, like, that's our home, we don't care, it's trash. They throw it away. So then the police say, if we see you here tomorrow, we're going to find a reason to arrest you. We'll find anything, and we're going to take you to jail. And what they've been doing to everyone else, a lot of other people, is finding them a couple $100 for infractions of their campsite or something. So they're building up these warrants and stuff. I mean, it's all to put people in the system. That's why, you can't sleep on a bus bench, like you said. They're changing them so they're uncomfortable and they have no cover. It's just cruel, inhumane stuff. You're not going to solve the situation. You're going to keep pouring money into the ultra rich. At least let people have a bus bench to sleep on. You know what I mean? How horrible are these people?
Well, again, I think this is a result of something that, I've brought up a couple times on this show. Everything is based on people's fucking feels. This is the issue why homeless must be invisible, not in my backyard. Can't we do something with these people? It's because there is some suggestion, some encouragement that if you are in proximity to those who have nothing, doesn't that make you feel like you don't have anything? This is what's driving decisions at the municipal level, because councillors want to get reelected too, and all the big mouths are the ones who call in and bitch and complain. Plus there's the money on the other side. I can imagine in a place like Los Angeles, between the police commission and council and developers and the showbiz industry, my God, that must be a fucking corrupt place. So they just keep twerking the game they've got time, right? They got time. They don't give a shit.
When you watch, a lot of times when you watch television or movies, when a homeless person is on the screen, a lot of times, it's a crazy homeless person. Like automatically, a homeless person is presented as a negative. It's the same way black women are treated in media. They're so often given roles where they're shouting. They're perceived as quote unquote ghetto and uncouth, and we just don't view people who are in the lower income bracket, but homeless people especially, we don't view them as equal. And it's this all-encompassing white supremacy. Women aren't equal, homeless people aren't equal, disabled people aren't equal, etc., etc. And it's LA, of course. How much is spent on the Oscars and putting out the red carpet, putting up those benches, hiring all those media people, taking all the pictures, all the dresses, and then the police in this city have a budget, the LAPD, of $1 billion, and the LA police and cities in LA County and the surrounding areas, their sheriffs have funds. Big multi-million-dollar funds to give out, so when they kill a person of color, okay, well, just pay him off. The cop won't, he's not going to jail. He's going to stay on they're going to stay on the force.
Yeah, they also kill a lot of homeless people.
And that
person of color or not
never gets reported. It's like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. It's that cold of a reality. This happens so often, and a homeless person either dies because of the cold, a cop kills them, they suffer severe depression from the circumstances and how they're treated, they commit suicide. So you have so many of these
or serial killers now going around killing them too.
Killing homeless, yeah. Their names are not said, their lives are not remembered. John McCain's life is.
Well, this is exactly why they capitalize on the field side, because, like you said, Nolan, these people are less, so we don't really need to hear about it, right? Oh, look, famous rich white guy died. Oh my God!
And when that happens, famous rich white guy dies, we're gonna whitewash him. Darn, Hugh Hefner died. Wasn't he a predator? No, don't talk about that. He was a cool dude, always getting with the ladies. He had the grotto. He was cool, man. Leave him alone. Don't talk about that other stuff. But he's a great person, a great iconic figure of Americana and white society and Western culture. But people who are homeless because of this system, the society, and capitalism, they're less than human.
Yeah,
Doesn't make sense, but this is the reality we live in.
Like I said, we're gonna hopefully sometime this weekend I'm gonna do a show, and if anyone listening wants to, go to @peoplesradio, and the O at the end is a 0, and or just go to just at my Twitter and send any questions you might want to ask about the situation that you want me to ask the people who are actually living it, and dealing with the police right now in this battle to stay under a bridge where you have some kind of shelter. Yeah, like any questions, just hashtag People's Radio or something. And
I have one.
Okay, what is it?
You can answer it now or when you do the show. Why doesn't Jeff Bezos give a few billion to help fight homelessness in the United States?
Who is that? I know the name.
CEO of Amazon.
Oh yeah, okay, there it is. I went to like LA Congress people, or
well, them too. But he's the one. He's the richest guy in the world. He's making millions of seems like a second. I can't remember the exact figures, but he's got more money than anyone knows what to do with.
And you said, why doesn't he what?
Why doesn't he give a few $1 billion to help fight homelessness in the United States, along with paying his employees a reasonable, livable wage and treating his employees?
I can tell you. Well, are you seriously asking that question? Because it's a simple answer.
Well, give the simple answer.
Because if he paid his employees right, and if he solved the homelessness crisis, he wouldn't be a multi-billionaire. He'd just be a billionaire, maybe. Or maybe he wouldn't be a super multi-billionaire. He'd just be a multi-billionaire.
How sad that would be for him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they said on South Park, he wouldn't be able to have the jet plane with the remote control for the entertainment center. He just had to have one without the remote control. You have to get up and walk across the plane to change the channel, and we can't have that. Yeah, they're so greedy, man. It's just like like how rich is too rich. It's like I say, there should be a law. You shouldn't be able to have that much money.
Yeah, I always think about that a little deeper, because I don't mind if forgetting the numbers, like forgetting how rich a person could be. I don't mind if you're rich. That's it's fine. If you made your money honestly, good for you. But this capitalist, ultra rich, screwing over his employees situation, no. Yeah,
but he didn't make that much. Other people worked and got paid meager, nothing wages that they couldn't really survive on to make him that money.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that.
I mean, there's a lot of exploitation.
I can't deal with, and I also wonder, because I look back at my own people before, white folks ruined everything. We had some rich folks, including the richest person in the history of the world, Mansa Musa, and he was the opposite of a capitalist. He gave his money to the poor. He gave his money to other African nations to help them out. He was the top giving to the bottom instead of the top taking from the bottom. So I just wonder, like, obviously under a capitalist system, you can't. If you become a billionaire, there's a reason why you became a billionaire, most likely. I can't think of one billionaire who is in an a-hole. I can't. If you can name one, please do.
Well,
is Magic Johnson a billionaire? No, he's not.
It doesn't matter what the attitude is. It matters the exploitation.
Yeah, all these billionaires. That's how they exploit their workers, and under the system, I can't think of a billionaire who's a decent person.
Because somewhere, even if they inherited it, somewhere in the history there was exploitation. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Rothschilds, Rockefellers,
yeah. Yeah, I think there should be a maximum wage. If there's a minimum wage that tells
Why
most
not? Yeah.
corporations that they say it's that we're protecting you to not get paid less. Yeah, but you're also telling them that this is legal to pay people these slave wages. You know what I mean? So at the same time, you should have a maximum wage. Like, yeah, that's fine. You could pay these slave wages over here, but you can't make any more than this much because it should work both ways, right?
If you're gonna have it that way, I mean, you
And then
got to
where
be
does that other
consistent.
money go? Oh, maybe you should pay these people if you want to get more, and we can work it out. It has to it has to start somewhere. But the problem is, just like on the police commission, billionaires who are a small minority tend to be involved in making the rules for the majority, and those rules they make don't reflect the majority, just themselves.
Bezos, $230,000 every minute he makes. The average Amazon worker makes $28,000 a year.
So every minute he makes what one of his workers make in a year, and that should be legal. I don't think so.
Times almost 10.
Wow, see, that should not be legal. That money
It
should be
shouldn't
in a
be.
worker. Think about how much the economy would prosper if you kicked these workers down. We're on a huge tangent, though.
Well,
But
it's connected because we're talking about poverty, and even people with jobs are homeless. There are people who live on the streets who can't afford housing or are blocked from housing, and they still have
yeah, I'm
jobs.
gonna be talking to one of them on the next show. Um, yeah, a lot of people out there are working. They're living in cars. They're living in on the street in different places, and they're working a job that doesn't pay them, refuses to give them full time. It's no benefits, and then that makes the employment rate look so awesome. But you got all these crap jobs people have,
Yeah, those employment rates are so
and
skewed.
and
That, yeah,
yeah, they are. But in California, working part time, making minimum wage, you can't afford to live anywhere.
even if you up the
And then
minimum
if you
wage to
went,
$15, you can't live in a lot of places. Can't live in LA. Can't live in New York.
yeah, I mean, so
So
you have a lot of people that move east to past Pomona, going to Inland Empire, and then commute to their job. So now you're driving
hmm
or commuting hours every day out of your life just to go get this paycheck, where you have to live far out because you can't afford to live anywhere else. It's a crazy thing, man.
that I mean that is capitalism. That is, and this is connected to poverty because so many black folks in Africa are impoverished. Your
He
your
took it full
your
circle.
your iPhones that that you use, if you have one, our young boys are helping make those by mining for minerals that make the iPhone for next to nothing. I think it's like $2 an hour, $2 a day or something in horrible conditions. And obviously, some of our kids die from that, or young men die from that, get sick, and there's a vicious cycle.
Yeah,
There's been people who've gone undercover to apple plants in China, and then they come back and say, "This is ridiculous." There's so many of those people quit uh, who live in China because it's just absolute exploitation of humans, of human beings.
you know what? Apple's not the problem. The problem is Latinos crossing our border. Get with the program.
Yes, distractions. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
But
I
anyway,
mean,
go ahead, finish up. We're gonna move on from this one.
Trump said yesterday China's trying to ruin the 2020
Oh
election.
yeah,
Is that the most hypocritical and ridiculous thing he could? I mean,
yeah, he's
there's a
ridiculous.
distraction. So you're gonna have a bunch of right-wing people going, no, no, no. See, the real problem is the Chinese are trying to come into our election. All right, wow. Okay, so we can't have a discussion about anything that's important.
Yeah. Well, like we got about 10 minutes left, so um, I don't even care about the Kavanaugh stuff really because, you know, the thing with the Rosenstein and Kavanaugh are coming, but we don't have any real information right now as far as I know, other than what everybody pretty much knows and what we've already talked about. So, I mean, the hearings were the hearings, but are they going to confirm the guy or not? Are they going to fire Rosenstein? And would firing Rosenstein even really matter? But we could talk about that next week after we have more info and the stories develop a little more. But we do have the Bill Cosby thing. So we all should maybe it says we should all take a moment to be happy that after all these years of rape and assault, the victims of the serial rapist Bill Cosby are finally getting a tiny bit of justice and hopefully a little closure. Not enough, but a tiny bit.
Well, that's the word, tiny. It's an absolute sham that there's a chance he could leave prison and still be alive. And this is just a case for one of the women that he victimized. And there were over 60.
And there's still a lot of people really defending him.
Of course.
Because you know, they persecuted Jesus and you saw how that went.
Well, and you know, we're talking about the colonized mind. I just say it: mental slavery of black folks and the colonized minds of people of color. There are too many black folks who are defending Cosby, and this is a theme. Anytime a black celebrity gets in trouble, whether they did the thing they're accused of or not, first thing we say is no, they didn't do it. It's just racism because, you know, all the shit that they make up on us. And it's understandable to have that thought and have that thought continuously, even with information there showing, no, sorry, Cosby did it. No, sorry, R. Kelly is a disgusting pervert. You should never see the light of day again, etc. But it needs to stop because we're contributing to not only our demise, but the demise of other people and women as well. I mean, there were obviously black women, white women that Cosby abused, and yet we're going, you know, he tried to buy NBC, so, you know, white folks and the powers that be got mad at him, and they made up all this stuff about rape, and they paid all these women. It's like, yeah, give me a break. If 60 women are coming out against the guy and saying, yeah, he raped us.
Just like Trump, Kavanaugh, Weinstein, all the other ones, he's caught up in the Washington sex war. He's just a casualty. Isn't that what his lawyers said? They compared him to Emmett Till. Then they compared him to Jesus.
Oh my gosh!
And now they're comparing him to Kavanaugh, who's just another casualty in the sex war going on in Washington.
That's absolutely disgusting. Emmett Till.
Well,
that's why I said that. That's what his legal defense went up and said. They persecuted this Jesus this way, and you all see how that turned out.
That's sick.
Well, there is
super sick.
There is a sex war going on in Washington, but the actual war is that the sexual Nazis are finally being exposed, and the momentum is no longer with their permanence, with their story. I mean, it's not that long until midterms. And considering that the United States apparently can only be governed according to the last 6-hour poll, if there is a sizable change in the representation, there's going to be a lot of shit that happens because, you know, there's a lot of people in the system right now, within government, without government, who are media, etc. They're all hanging by a thread. And if there's a big change in how the money's handed out, there's going to be a big change in the presentation, the image, everything about DC in a real hurry. The only question will be, will people buy it or not?
Oh, they will. They will. They buy it every time. And sometimes I wonder if it's even just a plan to put this authoritarian Republican that everybody hates in, and then throw a smiling Democrat that everybody's like, oh, and they can still slide things and get ready for the next Republican. Seems almost like wrestling to me.
But I think the thing that's really changed since 2016 is there's way more domestic hurt on the airwaves than we've seen in a long, long time.
That's very true. There's two problems that still exist and will still exist no matter who takes or keeps the Congress, the House, the Senate. One, the politicians, they won't go to jail. A lot of them won't even resign or be forced out. And then you have the other factor of these women are still going to be, and I mean women in general, are still going to be victimized, they're still going to be assaulted, they're still going to be raped. And we're just, it's like when Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin were killed. And it blew up in the media, and then Black Lives Matter, and the movement at large got re-energized. Okay, so now we're talking about this again, even though it never stopped. Like you said, in terms of what women have gone through and still go through, that's actually being talked about now in the media more than ever. But that doesn't mean it's going to stop, because the system is still in place until you actually go to the root of the problem, and not just Trump or Kavanaugh. Until you actually go after the root of the problem, women will still be victimized. Native women will still disappear. Their bodies will still be turned up on a road, disfigured. Black women are still going to be thrown in prison at alarming rates. You have to go at the root of the problem. You have to see that it's all men. All men are created equal. All men are right there. You people should have known. Oh, geez, wait a minute, something's wrong. One group of people, half the people here are all of a sudden they don't matter. We're creating a new government, and they don't matter.
Well, this is the common picture from the end of empire, though. I mean, this is no different than all the good party members sitting in the theaters in Berlin in May 1945 watching the newsreels of the victories of the Reich as the bombs dropped outside. It's the same damn thing.
Well, I've heard that a lot because of Trump, and theoretically that could happen. And the same thing could happen with Hillary, just I think like a possible nuclear war, if we're going to say. But how... since we're not talking revolution, we're talking about a system fail. It's like a computer and a virus comes in. Glenn, how did you envision this fall of the United States happening in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, if I hear you right?
Well, I think that's just the natural result of empire, because they become too megalomaniac. They become too concerned with things far, far away from where they are, because there's something there that's shiny or something else, and it's simply going to collapse internally. It's simply going to fall apart domestically. There will be bankruptcies of governments. Money will become a piece of paper. You can see it the way it's going. Now it's going to be $1 trillion a year budget on paper before you even have numbers. So what's it going to be when all the numbers are counted? 1.4 trillion for 1 year?
Well, Glenn, you realize we're going to get a space force for that, right?
There's more wasted money.
Exactly. This is being accelerated. It's like, you know what? I can see that brick wall, but why are we still so far away from it? Floor it. That's exactly what's going on. And, other economies or powers like Red China or the EU, you think they're going to be phoning you, telling you to slow down. Why the fuck should they? It's not like the United States has been their best pal.
No.
I mean, that's what I think. It's not going to be some huge war that's going to end the United States. It's going to be just a deterioration, a disintegration of the system that permits the United States to exist.
I think you make a good point, especially with you bring up China, and since this is being accelerated, as you say, you have a president. You have a president who has had his products made in China. He's the president of a country that is in debt to China by over $1 trillion, and he's pissing off China. So yeah, I see what you mean, and I can't rule that out as a legitimate possibility of the country falling to its own knees,
self-induced,
because of its own self-induced.
Absolutely. I mean,
4 more years.
Even right now, if China wanted to cut off their nose to spite their face, they could call in their paper on the U.S., and that's it. The U.S. shuts down. It's that easy. Do you see that mentioned on MSNBC or CNBC or Bloomberg? Or, no.
But Glenn, they could have done that for years before Trump even.
Yeah, but
they could just do it more now.
The Chinese,
they make so much money off of the United States, and killing off that cow,
No, it's a total psychological difference. The Chinese aren't exactly known as being impulse actors. They got time, man. All the time in the world to wait for the United States to put their head on the block for them.
And they got, like 3 times our population, too?
They have 1.2 billion people.
1.2?
Yeah.
That's like 3 times. 4?
Yep.
3 or 4 times. There you go.
And you owe them more than your economy's worth. Think about that.
What's the deficit now? Like, is it close to 30 trillion?
I'm not even sure. I think they will be hitting another ceiling vote sometime in the new year.
I'm Googling this really quickly. Because they have the national debt is 21.5 trillion. Total debt is 71 trillion, and the interest per citizen in terms of the U.S. Total interest paid out is $9,000. So each citizen of the United States is basically having $9,000 taken away from them because of all the debt America has acquired.
We better hope China doesn't get drunk and go all in at a poker table and need some money real quick.
Well, then keep them out of Macau.
Oh man, can I just ask this though? Because I seriously don't know how this happened. From Bill Cosby to here, how did that go?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how did?
I don't know.
Trump. I think Trump. Trump is like. Well, again, that's a huge issue in general. Like, Trump is like everyone's favorite topic. Like, anything that's going on in your life, whether you're in government, whether you're a golfer, whether you're a postal worker, Trump always seems to come up in the conversation. A lot of people don't like politics. Politics are boring, but Trump keeps getting talked about, and that's why a lot of white folks, liberals mainly, they go, well, if we stop Trump, everything will be fine.
That's because people are monopolized to their sources of information.
Oh, yeah.
And those sources are only too happy to keep talking about the asshole because that makes them money. The universe is monetized.
Oh, yeah.
As far as Cosby goes, okay, so just recently, we've had Cosby, had Weinstein, we've had the Catholic Church issue again. There's been all kinds of famous people implicated in what we know has been going on forever, but yet the only one to actually go to jail is the black man.
And there is something to that, and at the same time, I'm not going to go, well, he's just being victimized. He's being painted as a villain because he's black and this and that. Look, he's a villain. He's an asshole. Screw him.
But there's a black pedophile that's not in jail, though.
No, what I'm saying is they should all be rotting in jail, and it's just the black man.
Yeah, well, and it goes to the figures. If you actually study the figures of rape culture, 98% of rapists don't spend a day in jail or prison. Okay,
Yep.
So you're seeing that play out on the national scene. I mean, Weinstein, like you said, nope, he's not in jail. You got Kavanaugh? Nope. Trump? Nope. You have all these people.
The cardinal of, where was it, Chicago? Nope.
Well, name your Catholic priest, basically.
Somebody brought up on social media that every time it's a woman against a celebrity, everybody's like, oh, they're lying. How come they're doing this after all these years? That's unreasonable. But then when it's somebody against the Catholic Church, they don't say anything about it.
Well, and it's not just celebrities; that's just women in general.
I think they were saying, is it because it's a male with the Catholic Church and they give a male more respect, or I don't know.
Of course. There's no doubt. So a male religious figure, a figurehead, no question about it. How many women popes have there been?
Well, no, I'm saying. Oh, go ahead, Glenn. Sorry.
I was just going to say, here's a question then. How come there's no statute of limitations on murder? Because, he was just a kid. Mm-hmm. You're not going to hold him to that, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, they give lighter sentences to different people for that, too.
No, but how come there's no statute of limitation on murder?
That's right. There is none, and yet, because this is a Western society, it's a male-dominated society, there is a statute of limitations on rape. I mean, if things were fair, Cosby would be going from his prison cell to the courtroom every 5 minutes for all the women that he hurt, and all the trials that he would have to go through for each woman.
How come when somebody gets exonerated from death row because of a confession 30 years after they got there, they let the dude out? How come they don't say, well, what'd you wait this long for? Fuck that. He's dying anyway. What's the difference?
Well, that's sexism. It's like within that of what you just said. When somebody comes out and says, okay, they're innocent. Freaking Leonard Peltier,
yep.
The lead prosecutor came out and said, we effed up, he's innocent. Obama signed his denial letter, only president to ever do that. All the other presidents let the time run out. So even with that, with people of color, not so much. But with people in general, you have people come out with a DNA test. You have people come out with a confession. They finally let them out. With rape victims and their abusers, the abuser, almost every time, it doesn't go to jail. And we have in Los Angeles, and I think Tim will at least know who this guy is. In Los Angeles, there's something called Kobe Bryant Day. For those of you who don't know, Kobe Bryant is one of the greatest basketball players to ever live. He won championships, an MVP, etc. Now, he had a case in Colorado while he was playing, and in the documents of the case, it says, and I quote, "Her blood on his shirt." Now, I'm not a lawyer. I can't say for certain that he is a rapist, but in terms of the evidence that is there, looks like he probably raped that woman. I asked my father, my late father. My father was such a good lawyer. He got $100,000 from Tupac 6 months before he died. Okay. He was a giant Laker fan. Giant. I showed him that quote. I was like, hey, you never saw this, because I saw it. I've never seen it. He looks at it. Oh, yeah, he probably raped that girl, that woman. And that's the thing. Women, like we're talking about poverty, less than. They're treated less than. They're not fully human. They are dehumanized on a daily basis. But because we are men, and we don't have to worry about when we're out late at night that, oh my gosh, we could be assaulted any second and then raped. Because we're not thinking about that, we don't care. We don't believe them when they come out and say, he hurt me, he violated me, he raped me. This, again, all-encompassing, and I'll make this short. Black person comes out, and then, oh, they're killed by the police. It's on video. You could, oh, that's a murder. Anybody with a brain, okay, yeah, that's murder. And yet, the society goes, nah. It was a black person's fault. Give the cop a break. They did their job. This is the society that we live in.
Yeah, but also you have the fact that the same crimes poor people go to prison for decades for, rich people do every day, and either get off or don't even get charged with this stuff. So yeah, you got certain groups of people that can commit certain crimes, cops being the ones that can commit murder and get away with it, and it's disgusting.
Well, this is the problem with subjugation to authority. As soon as the public majority buys that, then you're fucked. I mean, this is why I always laugh every time the United States, for whatever reason, every once in a while they want to make fun of France. Well, people should look at their history, and even here in the French province of Quebec, their civil law history, their tort law history is completely different from English Canada. And it's more like back in the French Revolution. It's like, you know what? You're all full of shit. You're all rich. You all think you got the answers, but yet we keep getting fucked. So you know what? You're all out. That's the French way of doing things. And even to this day in Montreal, in Canada, in the 21st century, when they have protests, there are multiple generations of the same family in the protests. You won't see that anywhere else in North America.
And even still, in Montreal, and the French provinces, you spoke of in Canada, in France, you still have genocidal racism. You still have
definitely
the missing and murdered indigenous women problem. And then, of course, France, like I talked about before.
But what I'm saying is, Whitey doesn't sit home. If something gets to Whitey, Whitey comes out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
In the States, I don't see it.
That's true. I see that in Europe in general. Whatever the cause is, good or bad. Mm-hmm. Nazis coming out in droves in Poland. Now Germany again, amazingly so.
Yeah, but they also got other people coming out to oppose them.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I'm just making a point. You have women coming out. I think it was like 600,000 in Poland, if I'm correct, a while back for women's rights. Thousands of people before the attempt to overthrow the horrible leader of Turkey. You had thousands of people in the streets protesting against that. Really, it's basically a dictatorship over there. So yeah.
Ireland,
yeah.
Ireland just recently came into the 21st century with removing restrictions on abortion. And some of the biggest demonstrations Ireland has ever seen, overwhelmingly women, and they were taken seriously. I mean, that's one thing I know from my life experience. Do not fuck with Irish women.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like simple math. If you're going to have that many people against an issue or for an issue or whatever, you're probably going to get a little traction. You know, March on Washington. You should, but I'm just saying in terms of the reality of each individual situation. The March on Washington, we got a little traction after that. So there's this apathy in American society. Yep. It's sick. We'll watch the news, even the whitewash news. We'll see what Trump is doing to people all across the world. You see what Kavanaugh's done to these women, and then we'll go, that's too bad, whatever, Kardashians are on, let's drink some wine and forget about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I don't really see a difference. You could be watching the wine show, or you could say, I'm going to go and get a few big-time celebrities, promote something, get 50,000 people on the street, and make the people care for about another extra week about this cause, and then it's all forgotten. So it's basically the same thing.
Well, there's the issue. There's the crux in that within this country. I'll just take two particular causes or organizations: Women's March and the March for Our Lives. That was liberal noise. Those two organizations and the marches that they've had, that complete liberal noise.
Any march that has a permit is liberal noise to me.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But that's the difference, at least with the protests of late with Trump. But again, that's the Trump side. We're going to let them distract us, and then we're going to go with that distraction or create our own distractions from a real issue. Gun violence is a real issue, but then we're going to have it with a liberal spin, an American spin, and leave people out, even though they had some black folks speak. They had cops speak. They had, I believe, Pelosi spoke. They had.
I got video of people hugging and thanking cops at that with guns on them.
Yeah.
Like you're an anti-gun thing, and first thing you do is walk over to the overseers with the guns and hug them and thank them and shake their hands.
Mm-hmm. I think you guys just identified the difference. In the United States, there's an overwhelming assumption that we'll go out one time and now somebody will take charge of it and they'll take care of it and whatever. Oh shit, we got to get home. Dancing with the Stars is on.
Exactly.
But
Tucker Carlson was on, by the way. That was fine with everybody. I just want to put that in there.
But in places like Ireland, if some entity, like if there would have been some freetheuterus.ir or some bullshit, all the Irish women would have said, who the fuck are you? We're running this show. And it's the same thing in Poland with the huge demonstrations of women. It's about Poland trying to make abortion restricted. There was no oversight. There was no website that people had to go to and give their fucking voter list data and get on an email list and get asked for donations.
And agree to certain rules.
Yeah, that's just not the way they do shit there. They actually depend on each other and accept some responsibility that they may have to do something besides click to get something to change.
You know, that March for Your Lives was huge. So many people, man.
Mm-hmm.
What if they would have got out there and said, what if they would have done it on, like, say, Sunday? It might have been on a Sunday. I don't remember the exact
It was
day.
on a Saturday.
Okay, but what if they'd have done it on Sunday? And everybody comes out, those 50,000, whatever they said it was, people. I mean, you couldn't even see past, a couple rows of people. So many people, seas of people. So then it starts getting around 6 or 7 when they're about to say everyone leave and whatever. Everyone starts leaving slowly at the proper time. The march is technically over. And what if instead of that, someone gets on the mic and says, everybody sit down? Because what we're going to do is we're going to stay here another 16 hours right where we're at. And you know what that does? That shuts down the whole city on a Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing moves. Nothing moves. And all they got to do is sit out there 15 hours more.
But the population has been controlled you can't do that. I have to go to work.
Yeah. Well,
call in sick. Call in sick.
No, can't do that because there's no unions. There's no worksite rules in modern U.S. You show up, you don't show up, you get fucking fired. Fuck you.
Well, and the other thing, like you said, Glenn, they trust that it's going to get worked out. So the woman I voted for, they'll take care of it. I trust them. Well, for goodness sake, that's why you have that apathy there. Oh, okay. I trust this system. I like this system. If you're white, this system works for me. I don't want to tear it down. Let's have a little reform here that'll benefit us. I mean, I called it when it was happening. I called it the March for White Lives because that's what it was. It was a March for White Lives. Like the Women's March, that was for white women. There was so many disgusting things that were done to people of color. One, for instance, in Washington, D.C., Native women were actually sitting down in a prayer circle, and white women with pussy hats were making fun of them. There were women shoving and knocking Native women to the ground. There were white people, including white women, with Washington Red Slur apparel on at the Women's March. A CIA informant, spoke there. Gloria Steinem. So this is Camilla Harris spoke at one of them. I don't know if it was the Washington one, but that's the difference. They want to keep the system. They want to keep their privilege and their nice things, their reality shows, their mocha lattes, and pumpkin spice lattes. That's what the white women like. But I guess we're about done with our rants and tangents and angry revolutionary thought for the week.
Well, I think it's just the same old story. People just don't want to see the forest for the trees. Everything is monetized. The white percentage of the United States still controls the economy. Therefore, everything gets played to them. Period.
Or even in South Africa, white people still control the economy, even though there are much more black people living there than white folks. White genocide.
Is that really the 2 words you want to? Is that really the 2 words you want to end this with?
End that with hashtag white genocide. Everybody lose their minds.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
I think that's a great band name.
Hashtag. Oh my god.
If the dead Kennedys were forming today, their name would be White Genocide.
That would be good.
It could just be the dead Trumps. You kind of went a little, yeah, but that's funny. White Genocide, I think, should be a black group.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like have
like Bad Brains,
black rock band, or even
Something
whatever.
Something like Body Count was.
Yeah, that way, there's no confusion about the name. Because if you had a bunch of white people coming out with a band called White Genocide, they have a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah, but I gotta look something like Suicidal Tendencies and call them White Genocide. That's how you do it.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, I guess thank you guys. Thanks everybody for listening. And I don't like White Genocide. I'll leave with the 2 words: fuck civility. How's that?
I like it.
I do too. Glenn's Canadian, so he can't like it even if he wants to. So,
stereotyping again.
Yeah, that's what I do. Anyway, so yeah, next week we'll be here again, and maybe I'll be a little more awake.